Welcome to a series called The End of Times, where we're going through the book of Revelation verse by verse to see what it is we can expect to happen and what it is we should be doing in the end times as we prepare for the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ to reign as King on earth as it is in heaven. And where we are in this book is we just hit chapter 17, and chapter 17 gets very complicated. Because ultimately what we've seen is, up until this point, a lot, but the general idea is we've gone through 7 trumpets, and then there was at the 7th trumpet, that's Christ's return, but there was a pause in the story. And we were introduced to the dragon, the woman, the child, the beast of the air, the beast of the sea, all sorts of different things. And then there's these bowls of judgment, and there's 7 of them. And then at the 7th bowl, which is hitting about the same time as the 7th trumpet, time-wise, and after that 7th bowl, again, there's a pause in the story, and that's where we're at now. And we're introduced to a harlot. And we saw last week that this harlot, who sits on many waters, it's about sexual immorality. And we're just going to keep it there. We're going to kind of stick on these verses for a bit because there's a lot more to be grabbed from this. Because oftentimes what happens, people say there's a harlot on many waters, and they go on to the next thing. There's a lot going on here. And understanding this truly helps you understand, well, where is Babylon and who are these people? So we're just going to pick it up where we left off right there on Revelation 17, starting verse 1. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and talked with me, saying to me, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed fornication, the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her fornication." Now, last episode we talked about that fornication, and really if you read this the way that the Greek words were meant to be, it kind of reads a lot like this verse 2, with whom the kings of the earth committed sexual immoralities with. And the inhabitants of the earth were made drunk with the wine of her sexual whoredom, is what those words mean. So it's about sex. This is all about sex. Very sexual, promiscuous place that we're talking about here. But let's kind of look at this many waters. There's a lot of speculation goes on what these many waters mean. So we're just going to see what the Bible has to say. So 17 verse 1, then one of those 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and talked with me, saying to me, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great harlot who sits on many waters." Now, oftentimes when people refer to many waters, because remember the beast came out of the sea, the great sea, and what we are going to see here essentially is the sea or the many waters can represent several different things. Well, we're going to jump ahead a little bit here because after we see this harlot and we kind of get a description of the beast that she's riding, which again we're going to get into great detail as we move forward, but this harlot who sits on many waters, to understand what these waters are about, we're going to jump ahead because an angel begins to explain to John what this is he's seeing. And if we look at Revelation 17, starting in verse 15, "And he said to me, the waters which you saw where the harlot sits are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues." So this harlot, this harlot, we're going to find out is Babylon. It's a nation of Babylon. And it's made up of many nations, tribes, peoples, multitudes, and tongues. And this is straight from the Word of God. And this is literally an angel telling John what this harlot is. So there's no confusing what this is. The harlot is a group of people who are made up of many nations, many peoples, many tribes, many tongues, just all sorts of people from around the world concentrated in one nation is what we're seeing. Now, I don't want to write off the waters as being water, because if you look at the word here, the waters, it's hydaton. It's literally water. So like when Jesus baptized with water, he baptized with hydaton. When the Ethiopian was saying, "Hey, look, there's water there," he said, "Hey, look, there's hydaton right there." So the word is aqua. It's water. It's hydaton. But clearly it's also, well, it is. It's the multitudes, tongues, and nations. But this tribe of Babylon, before we get off this waters things, I just want to take a moment and even jump further ahead. After Babylon is destroyed, in Revelation 18:17, it says this of the merchants of the earth: "For in 1 hour such great riches came to nothing, and every shipmaster, all who travel by ship, Sailors and as many as trade on the sea stood at a distance and cried out when they saw the smoke of her burning, saying, what is like this great city? So it literally is on many water. Like, it's literally a water, it's a coast, it's definitely got some coastlines to it, this nation here. And as we'll find out, well, multiple coastlines as well. And a lot of times people will refer to Babylon as the city of Babylon. Let's just write that. That is nonsense. The city of Babylon in Iraq is an abandoned city that only a couple scientists will go and they'll try to unearth some different things. But that is not, the spiritual Babylon began from the very first civilization on the earth, and it's been an evil entity until the very end. So, and we'll get into that because we're going to get deep into Babylon over the next multiple episodes. We'll be here on Babylon covers chapter 17, 18, and part of 19, and we're just in the first two verses of 17. So we will hit the spiritual, but get the idea that it's some lost civilization in Iraq. It is not. It is the spirit of the Babylonian Empire, the evil spirit of Babel, that is now taking over in this nation that we're talking about. And this nation clearly influences the entire planet. All kings of the earth kind of lean on this nation for their riches, for their sexual immoralities, for their power, their military might, that kind of thing. So, now, being that this is a nation, and when Babylon gets destroyed, so does a third of the earth. So the big chunk of the earth is being influenced by this nation. And this nation of Babylon, this harlot, we know that it's very, very sexual immoral. As a matter of fact, the kings of the earth committed sexual immoralities with this nation. And the people of the nation, the people of the world, were made intoxicated by its sexual whoredom. So we know it's a very sexual, immoral nation. We know that the whole world feeds off of the blood of the sexual immorality of this particular nation that we're talking about as well. And we know that it is surrounded by water, at least on one side, and we'll get to that later, and then it's made up of many multitudes, many religions, many tribes, and many tongues. Now, I'm not going to say it out loud what nation we're talking about yet, but you know what nation we're talking about. There's only one nation in this world that fits this description, and as we continue to look at the description of Babylon, we're going to find every single piece of this puzzle just fits right into this nation. And again, we'll say it out loud. I'm not going to say it out loud quite yet, but you know what I'm talking about. You know exactly what nation I'm talking about. It is not confusing where Babylon is, and when we look at the world and look at the biblical description of Babylon. But we'll keep going from there. So ultimately, just before we move forward, I just want to kind of recap. What we got going on here is we have a harlot, which is a nation of people, tribes, tongues, that is committing sexual immoralities with the world based on the blood of the saints, and God is going to judge it. And it happens to be on coastlines as well. So we're just going to pick it up right there. We'll move forward, pick it up in 3. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness. And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. All right, we're going to pause there. So when John says he carried me away in the spirit, keep in mind, this is the same description that John used when he was carried away in the spirit to the throne room of God. So now he's being carried away again to see what's going on here. And what he sees is a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So ultimately what you have here is you have an angel coming up to John after he'd watched the final plagues, completing the wrath of God. And he said, come, let me show you the harlot that sits on many waters, the judgment of the harlot that sits on many waters, who has committed sexual immorality with the kings of the earth, and the people were made drunk on its sexual whoredom. And these people are made up of many tribes, nations, and tongues. So that's kind of where he laid the foundation for John. And that's why it's so important. Before we get carried away in the spirit, The angel kind of said, come, I'm going to show you these things. The judgment, the consequences, the justice that's going to be placed on this harlot, which is a nation surrounded by water, at least on one side. The merchants of the earth wail because they don't have anybody to sell their stuff to anymore. And this harlot has made the kings of the earth drunks on her sexual immorality. And the people of this nation are intoxicated by its sexual whoredom. And now that John knows this, now he said, okay, I'm going to show you this thing. He hadn't even seen the woman. He hadn't even seen the woman at this point. And that's what's so critical, is that he already knows these things, but he hadn't even laid eyes on her yet. And then the angel takes him in the spirit away into the wilderness of all places. So we're going to stop there. We're going to stop there because it's very important we know where John is. We're going to talk about this wilderness. We're going to talk about what it is he's staring at before it's described to him. That way we actually see what it is John is seeing with John's eyes, because he so far I hope you see John does a really good job recording what it is he's seeing in heaven. But he's taken away into the wilderness, and this is a very, very critical piece. So we're going to pause there, and we're going to pick it up there next time. But let's just read through these verses again, just for clarity, and then I'll kind of explain it as we go. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and talked with me, saying to me, "Come, I will show you the judgment and the justice, the consequences of the great harlot who sits on many waters, the great harlot who is made up of many tribes, nations, and tongues, with whom the kings of the earth committed sexual immorality, and the inhabitants of the earth were made intoxicated with the wine of her sexual whoredom. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast." This is fascinating stuff what John is seeing, and again, I without saying it out loud, I probably should just say it. I'm going to wait till the next couple episodes to say it out loud, but we all know what this nation is. It's not confusing who this is that we're talking about. Welcome to a series called The End of Times, where we're going through the book of Revelation verse by verse to see what it is we could expect to happen and what it is we should be doing in the end times. And as we've gone through this book, we've made it to chapter 17. And twice in the timeline, or the storyline of Revelation, twice we get to the very end, right before Christ returns, and then there's a pause in the story. And that's where we're at right now, is the 7 bowls of judgment that completes the wrath of God on the earth has been in the form of 7 plagues, and 7 bowls poured out by 7 angels. And at the end of those plagues, there's a pause in the story, and an angel comes to John, and he tells him roughly, "Come, I will show you the judgment of the great whore who sits on many waters, with whom the king of the earth committed sexual immoralities, and the inhabitants of the earth, all tribes, tongues, and nations were made drunk or intoxicated on her sexual whoredom." So, essentially, this is just what it's here. He hadn't even seen this yet. The angel says, "Come, I'm going to show you this." Now, that's where we left off, and we're just going to kind of pick it up there, because the next 2 chapters, they all go together, and it's going to get really confusing. So these next 3 episodes, we're just going to kind of break apart the first things that John sees. So, and I'll explain that here in a second. So we're just going to pick it up where we left off. Revelation 17, starting in verse 3. "So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of the abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. And on her name was written, Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots, and the abomination of the earth. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I marveled with great amazement." We're going to stop it there, because we got to go back. We got to take a look at what it is John's seeing, because here in a little bit, the angel is going to kind of interpret what he's seeing. But let's just kind of focus on what he sees first. Let's not just blast past this real quick. Because ultimately, and let's just go back. So it says, so he carried me away in the spirit to the wilderness. And this word wilderness isn't wilderness. It's a lonesome wasteland. The word is for like a terrible wasteland, just a lonesome, it's just wasteland. It's not like out in the woods and it's real pretty. It's a wasteland. It's a lonesome wasteland is what he said. He took me away to a lonesome wasteland. And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet or red beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. So what John sees is he sees a woman sitting on a beast, and then a name is written on her forehead, Mystery, Babylon the Great. So we're going to break 3 episodes into 3. We're going to talk about the woman, then we're going to talk about the beast, and then we're going to talk about the mystery. In the next 3 episodes. And I'm going to try to blast these 3 out just 3 days in a row. So if you're seeing this, just know the next one's coming tomorrow and then the next day. Because it's real important. They all go together. Because the woman's riding the beast and this is written on her forehead. But we have to understand what it is exactly John is seeing. So we're going to focus on the woman real quick. So he's taken into a lonesome wasteland where he sees a woman. And this woman is on a red beast. Now we'll get back to the beast later. We've seen this beast obviously before because it's covered in blasphemous names, has 7 heads, 10 horns. We've seen this beast before. So we'll come back to the beast. But this woman, let's focus on her. She's on a red beast. She's wearing purple and red. She's adorned in gold, precious stones, and pearls. And she's holding a cup filled with the abomination. This is idolatry. This is cursed things. A cup filled with idolatry and cursed things, impurities, unclean, demonic things. She's just holding a cup filled with this stuff and filled with whoredom. It's filled with whoredom and it's filled with the blood of the saints and the martyrs of Jesus Christ. So let's just kind of start there. This is what this woman is. Now, to understand this woman and to understand the mystery, this is a group of people. And we clarified that last time when we jumped ahead. And this woman who sits on many waters, the judgment of the harlot who sits on many waters, these many waters of many tribes, tongues, nations, all together in one people group. So if we kind of look at, well, what is this? What is this woman all about? Well, I think it's important that we take a look at 2 Timothy 3, starting verse 1. This is a description of those people. But know this, that in the last days perilous times will come. For men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boasters, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good, traitors, headstrong, haughties, lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. This is the type of people we're talking about. And you may say, oh, those non-Christians or those people on this side of my political belief. Oh, no, no, no. All people, it's specifically Christians. Let's go on. Having a form of godliness, but denying its power, and from such people turn away. For of this sort are those who creep into households and make captives of gullible women loaded down with sins led away by various lusts. Here we're talking about the sexual whoredom. We're talking prostitution, porn, sex slavery, adultery, fill in the blank, all of the above. Go on. Always learning and never able to come to the knowledge of the truth. People sitting in church, they're constantly learning about God, but they don't know the truth. Now, as Jannes and Jambres resisted Moses, so do these also resist the truth. And what they're getting at, Jannes and Jambres are believed to be the 2 magicians in the Egyptian court. So when Moses came and he was saying, look what God says, look what God is doing, and they kind of then performed their own wonders to say, oh, look, you're a fool. We all can do that. And they brought people away from the truth of the knowledge of God towards satanic things. Let's keep going, which is just what the church is doing. But they will progress no further, for their folly will be manifest to all as theirs was. Jump to 12. Yes, and all who desire to live godly in Christ Jesus will suffer persecution. But evil men and impostors will grow worse and worse, deceiving and being deceived. But as for you, continue in the things which you have learned, and be assured of knowing from whom you have learned them. Jump to 4. I charge you, therefore, before God and the Lord Jesus Christ, who will judge the living and the dead at his appearance and his kingdom. She's talking about his second coming. Preach the word. Be ready in season and out of season. Convince, rebuke, exhort, and with all longsuffering and teaching. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desires, because they have itching ears, they will heap up for themselves teachers. And that's exactly what the world is doing. Anytime your preacher tickles your political ears, saying, oh, well, this particular politician or this particular side is evil and your side is good, and it has nothing to do with you. It's about the coming, and it has nothing to do with politicians. It's about the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ, because even when the angel interprets this to John, the first thing he tells him is like, you know what, it doesn't matter because, it's just a kingdom. Like, it doesn't matter because the saints will inherit the earth. I mean, once Jesus comes back, it's the saints that will possess the earth. These things are temporary. What's forever matters. But people go, we got to learn more about the evil. We got to learn more about the evil. For the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desire, because they have itching ears. They will heap up for themselves teachers, and they will turn their ears away from the truth and be turned aside to fables. But you, be watchful in all things, endure affliction, do the work of an evangelist, fulfill your ministry. Understanding the mystery of the harlot, she's filled with abominations, idolatry, she's filled with everything we just read about. And all these people, they're picking for themselves teachers and preachers that tickle their ears and show them that, you know what, everything you think is right, everything you want is right, everything you believe is right. And, the true test is really, when it comes down to, is what your preacher's preaching on, what your pastor's preaching on. If he's lifting up anything political, if he's lifting up any sort of person that is not Jesus Christ, get away fast. If he's telling you that you could just behave any way you want, once saved, always saved, get away fast. Get away fast. If he's sitting there telling you that you could do whatever you want, get away fast. Most Christians in America are involved in all these things we're talking about. And it's only a few that can really step away from this. It's only a few because, and it's the whole world. As we talk about where is this place, this place, Mystery Babylon, as we talk about the mystery of Babylon, just look around. Look around. If you're seeing these things, if you're seeing the abominations, idolatry, accursed things, impurity, demonic things, unclean things, whoredom, sexual whoredom everywhere. If you're seeing those things, you're staring at the inside of the cup of the harlot that is Mystery Babylon. That's what you're staring at. You guys, I hope this video helps. The next episode, put any comments or questions you might have below, but the next episode we're going to kind of focus on the beast. It's going to be a pretty long episode compared to this one, but here what we're looking at is, these mysteries that we see, people who don't think that they're participating in the idolatry, the abominations, the demonic impurities, or the whoredom that is within the harlot's cup. If you think you're not participating in that, then you're fooling yourself, because the kingdom of heaven, the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven haven't been revealed to everybody. That's why Jesus spoke in parables, because these mysteries are revealed to some, but some they're not revealed to. They're for everybody to understand, but some just simply don't get it. And that's kind of what it comes down to. Welcome to a series called The End of Times, where we're going through the book of Revelation verse by verse to see what it is we could expect to happen and what it is we should be doing in the end times. And as we've gone through this book, I want to remind you, this is episode 123. So we've gone through verse by verse from chapter 1, verse 1 on to where we're at. And I just want to take a moment and say we're at a place in Revelation where we're looking at the harlot, Babylon, and the beast, and we're really trying to understand some very complicated figurative things that mean literal things. So I want to remind you, I recommend you don't just jump in on an episode. I highly recommend you go back and verse by verse, or you study Revelation out verse by verse with somebody else or by yourself. Because oftentimes what happens is people jump in, they'll grab a verse, and they'll kind of suddenly become experts, and it really confuses the issue, and the true mysteries of God are just kind of blurred out because we want to jump in and say what the media tells us, or what our pastor maybe has told us, or people that really haven't taken the time to go through Revelation verse by verse. So just a little reminder there at the beginning here. So where we are in this book is, we're, as far as the timeline, we're at the very end. We're right before Christ's return, and we're introduced. So there's just this pause in the story, and an angel comes up to John and says, "Come, I will show you the judgment and the justice of the harlot, who is made up of a lot of people, cultures, religions, different tribes, tongues, all sorts of races. And this harlot has committed sexual immoralities with the kings of the earth, and the inhabitants have been made drunk on her sexual whoredom." Is what the Greek words literally mean. So then he's carried away into the wilderness, which we learned last time is a lonesome wasteland, not a beautiful wood setting or a lonesome wasteland. He's carried off into a lonesome wasteland where he sees a woman sitting on a scarlet beast. And so we pick it up right there, Revelation 17, verse 3. "So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. And on her forehead was written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and the abomination of the earth. And I saw the woman drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I marveled with great amazement." Now we're going to stop there. Last time we talked specifically about the golden cup. What is in that cup? It's the abominations. It's the sexual immoralities. It's the wickedness. It's the murder. It's the sorcery. It's the false idols. It's the satanic and demonic things that this giant people group or this nation is engaging in. And she's literally drunk on the blood of the martyrs. Now, last episode kind of said, we're going to split this into 3 things. We're going to talk about the woman, and then we're going to talk about the beast specifically, and then the mystery. But I want to take and I said we were going to go on to the beast next, but we kind of need to stay on this harlot for a bit, because I don't want to blast past the things that John has seen and really truly understand it. So we're going to take 2 more episodes, one more episode on the harlot, and then we're going to go to the mystery next, and then we'll talk more about the beast. But this harlot, what John has seen is the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls. And again, last time we talked about the golden cup. But let's talk about what she's adorned in, because what we're looking at, this beast, these are figurative things. We have to look at the Bible as some things are literal and some things are figurative. And what John is seeing in the Spirit is a figurative things that represent things. Like, for example, we learned a few episodes, the waters represents the many tribes and tongues and nations. And these pearls and precious stones and gold and purple, these represent the gluttonous spending, the riches of this nation. This gluttonous must have everything, the best of everything that this nation is. That's what she is literally adorned with. And we see that. We jump ahead. Again, we don't like to jump ahead sometimes just to see things make sense. We do. So we're going to jump for a second to the fall of Babylon. 18 verse 11, the merchants of the earth will weep and mourn over her, for no one buys their merchandise anymore. merchandise of gold and silver, precious stones and pearls, fine linen and purple, silk and scarlet, every kind of citron wood, every kind of object of ivory, every kind of object of most precious wood, bronze, iron, and marble, and cinnamon and incense, fragrance and oil and frankincense, wine and oil, fine flour and wheat, cattle and sheep, horses and chariots, and bodies and souls of men. Now, this is what it's literally at the cost of the souls and lives of men. This nation that we're talking about engages in gluttonous spending, and glutton must have the finest purple and reds and precious stones and jewels and chariots and anything we can think of that this nation must have as we try to narrow down where is Babylon. And then after Babylon is destroyed, we see this in 1815. The merchants of these things who became rich by her will stand at a distance for fear of her torment, weeping and wailing and saying, Alas, alas, the great city that was clothed in fine linen, purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls. So what these are, what she's adorned in, is the gluttonous retail. It's the spending. It's the getting on. Must have this, must have that, must have this. It's things become more important than the kingdom of heaven. Objects become more important than the lives of men and women and the souls of men and women. And we're even seeing that in the church today where literally people are more interested in objects than they are the lives and souls of men and women. And this has not changed. It just has gotten worse and worse and worse and worse as we get to the end of the time, get to the end times, because ultimately what you're seeing is you're seeing the decay of righteousness. You're seeing the decay of godliness in the form of merchandise. In the form of merchandise, and gluttonous spending is at the heart of the fall of mankind. And if we kind of really look at this harlot of just what John is seeing with his eyes, sexual immorality is unlike any, the blood of sexual whoredom is all over the hands of this harlot. We're talking about porn, sex slavery, adultery, fornication, anything that you can think of is what that's why she's called the harlot, the mother of all harlots, who engages in sexual whoredom is then adorned. So we have this nation that is constantly engaging in sexual whoredom with other countries are engaging with, because most other countries get their porn and their prostitutes and their sex slaves from America, is where they get them from. Most porn comes from America. And I'm just going to say it right here, this harlot, this mystery Babylon, I believe it's America. I think it's very clear. There's nobody else that fits these descriptions. And as we see this harlot adorned with gold and precious stones, we have this whore who is constantly buying. So what we see is this people group, the American people, the Church of America, is engaging in sexual whoredom unlike anything this country has ever seen. And they're engaging in gluttonous spending of objects unlike anything this country or the world has probably ever seen. And that's ultimately what we have that John is seeing. And then what we're going to add to it is, of course, after the warring of the saints is going to be the blood of the saints and the martyrs. So if we go back and we take another look at this, Revelation 17, verse 1. Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and talked with me, saying to me, Come, I will show you the judgment of the great whore who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed sexual immoralities with, and the inhabitants of the earth became intoxicated with her sexual whoredom. And again, I'm just quoting what the Greek words mean. So he carried me away in the spirit into the lonesome wasteland. And I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, on a red beast, which is full of the names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns. And the woman was arrayed in purple and red or scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand the golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. So you have this people group, this nation made up of different tribes, tongues, different religions, different ethnicities, and they're all participating in this national effort of sexual whoredom and gluttonous spending. And they're just getting intoxicated on the abominations that are coming from this country. You know, and again, this is the first time I actually said it's America. And I've been, you know, I've thought that for a long time, and, you know, I think it's just important as we move forward that this is what I'm talking about. You know, we need to address the truth. As we look around and we look at where is this? What is this sexual whore? What is this abomination that is just adorned in gluttonous spending of merchandise, making the merchants of the earth rich off of her gluttonous spending, and the blood and the souls of men going into purchasing these things? You can't help but say, well, of course it's America. Of course America is Babylon. You'd be a fool not to think that. You know, and especially as we look at the end times, to suggest that Babylon is some ancient city over in Iraq, you know, you haven't studied out Babylon. Go all the way back to the city of Babel. It has been an evil entity, a satanic empire that has, and a satanic thing that has just kind of stayed on the earth from the beginning of time to now. And now we're just staring at this great abomination, the great harlot, the abomination of the earth. So, you know, next episode we're going to talk about the mystery, because there definitely is a mystery here, and it's, you know, we're going to see that God reveals all of his mysteries. So, hope this video helps. You know, again, I'm not saying it's America to try to offend. I'm an American too. I just open your eyes, look around. I don't think it's very complicated. All you got to do is go outside and look around, and you'll see we are living in Babylon, in the harlot, the sexual impurities, the sexual whoredom, the gluttonous spending, made up of all sorts of cultures, is exactly what we are. So we're going to keep going. There's more to this harlot. There's a lot more to it. The church is part of her as well. As a matter of fact, she's in control of the church, and it gets really crazy. So understanding this mystery is a critical piece. So stick with us. We're going to talk about the mystery next. Love to hear thoughts and comments on all this. Put it below. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. Feel called to support this channel through Patreon. That link is also below. But the most important part of this channel, we take prayer requests, so never hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.